What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Common Sense, the podcast. I appreciate all y'all that joined us last week for our special live on location. We had a great time with everybody out at Will Call, but today we're joined by someone whose journey in life is as diverse and fascinating as they come. Rene Salinas, a Dallas native. He's had an incredible career starting at 18 with a real estate license and making his way into the AV integration world. So where he now holds a top secret clearance and does work with NASA and all kinds of other cool shit. So I know you guys want to hear these stories. I mean, he's a father of 4, husband for 16 years, and man, I mean, he's a man on a mission to restore historic homes and just, I don't know what he's not doing, really. I mean, it's just trying to keep up with what all he is doing. So, Rene, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you here.
Hey, thanks, Garrett. Glad to be here, man.
Yeah, it's been a minute. We've been trying to set this one up for a little while.
We have, yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad we're finally getting to do it.
Same here.
Yeah, so Rene and I know each other from ICC. He's another member in the Apex Lounge, and we just started chatting, and here we are. So we're going to chat with all y'all today. So,
yeah, no, glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, man.
Right, so looking forward to the chat.
Tell everybody a little bit about Rene, where you grew up, what type of family you grew up in. Give us a little background for those that don't know who you are.
Yeah, so born and raised in Dallas, right? Not a lot of people can say that around here. I think either more and more people travel in to Dallas, DFW area, or everybody just traveled out. But yeah, born and raised in Dallas, grew up in Mesquite, Texas, and as soon as I got out of high school, moved further and further north, right? Plano, then Little Elm, and now Frisco. When I was a kid, grew up in a Catholic school, so I was there getting my hands swapped by nuns, and but all that experience molded me to who I am today. And so, yeah, I started my career in IT. I went to a technical school. It's one of those things where tried community, college, really wasn't paying much attention, knew I needed to get my shit together, and then what do I need to do? Just give me get a piece of paper. Went to ITT Tech, went to DeVry, and started my career early on, in my early 20s. Worked for companies like Perot Systems, Dell Services, and then took that knowledge and experience and just grew my career path into what I do today in AV.
What was that like, making that decision to leave community college and take a gamble? Because I know ITT Tech and DeVry and all that, like that, that all came out around the same time as like the University of Phoenix, online schools and stuff like that.
Right.
And there was a lot of stigma when that first came out about, is that really, accredited, or, can I get the same opportunities if I went to this versus that? So
right.
How did you wave through those decisions?
So at the time, ITT Tech, they had a relationship with Perot Systems. So I knew that, people that went to ITT Tech now have jobs at places like that. So during that path, early on when I first started, I actually had an opportunity to go work at Perot. So that was sort of my door, the door in to that type of company, massive company at the time. And I, you're right, took a gamble. It was quick, trying to get a piece of paper. At the time, it was, let me just get a document that gets my foot in the door, right? That makes me just that much, accredited, to your point, than some others who probably don't have that piece of paper. That was the mindset at the time.
Yeah.
Right?
As I know I had a similar experience because I was really into cars coming out of high school.
Yeah.
And before I made the decision to join the Navy, Wyoming Tech, WyoTech was where I was considering going because painting cars. I mean, I was really into painting cars. I won state my senior year painting cars, and I thought that's what I was going to do for a while.
Right.
Until I took a job in a body shop over the summer in Texas. And I was like, no way in hell. I am not doing this every day. Like, this needs to be a hobby.
Yeah.
Like, this is a really poor decision.
Right.
So then we went Navy instead. But I get that. I can remember how many people, and this was 1998.
Yeah.
So many people were coming up to me and like, what are you doing going to a tech school? And so like go to real college. Like, don't go to one of these things. But I mean, I think that's where kids today have the biggest advantage, because everybody's talking about student debt and all of this crap and getting, you know, everybody thinks they want to be a lawyer or a doctor and all this stuff. But these trade schools, I'm telling you, the master plumber, the master electrician, the master carpenter, the master trim carpenter, those guys, because the dads and everybody else are real close to retiring.
That's right.
And the kids have no idea how to do the work, let alone run the business. And they might know one, but not the other. So getting involved, if you have any inclination to do so, with one of those trade school, I think is huge. I think that's where all the millionaires are going to come from outside of the technology world.
Right.
Is going to be that, like, forget doctors and lawyers. Like, they're screwed up every time a bill passes and they can't get insurance money or whatever.
Right.
These kids in trades, they can write their own future, because, man, there's no limitations really, because those people are hard to find. I mean, you're finding it out right now with your renovation in Salina.
Exactly. Yeah, no, 100%, right? It's trying to find the right people, the good people, the honest people that you can trust and go on that journey with, right?
Yeah.
To fulfill those dreams that you have of renovating, fixing, flipping, making a profit, right? At the end of the day, that's the goal. But yeah, that's definitely been a lesson learned in that.
Yeah, because not everybody in the construction world communicates well.
No.
I mean, they might be really good at doing their craft, but they might be really terrible at scheduling, balancing their books, or, you know, just anything. I mean, they're really good at that one thing, but everything else. So unless you have the right, especially for a project like you're doing, you don't have the right general contractor to help facilitate that. Guess what you end up being? The general contractor. And now you're trying to play in a world that you don't have all the leverage in and everything else. So, man, I feel sorry for people that have to learn that the hard way. So I feel a little pain for you on that.
Listen,
but it's a great learning experience.
It is, right? It's the money I put into that is really, that's the education. So instead of going to a school that teaches you all this, guess what? Do my first fix and flip, pay all this money, and then that's the school. I think that's probably the best type of education you could get is on the field, to learn right then and there reality of how exactly it works, right? And I don't regret it, to be honest with you. I think that this experience that I'm going through right now with fixing and flipping is probably it's something that money and education probably couldn't buy.
We'll dive back into that and circle around, but let's talk about real estate, because that's what you started out in. And it's my understanding that you had a conversation with your old man and that he told you a story about how and I think he's still a broker, a practicing broker today.
Right.
And he told you he got his real estate license at 19.
That's right.
So you had to one-up that and get it at 18.
As every son tries to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to beat the old man.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so you're dead on. I mean, at that age, 18, 19 years old, you know, you're trying to figure things out. You don't know exactly what you're going to do in life. You just know what's at present. And I grew up in the real estate, game, family. And so when I did hear that story, that was one of my goals, was to get my license at 18. Now, I did get my license, right? But one of the things I learned very quickly is no one who's going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a home is going to instill their trust in an 18, 19-year-old realtor, right, who has little to no experience. In their mind, they don't know I grew up in the game. Even though I can talk it, you see this kid who's now got the real estate license and trying to sell. It's hard, man. And listen, for those that are doing it today, kudos, keep grinding, right? Don't give up. But it is going to be a challenge, just because you're now up against, especially in today's world, you're up against those
AI
that are,
and everything else.
Yeah, that have the technology to back them, the infrastructure to back them, the network, right, that they've grown over 10, 20 years, right? And that's what makes realtors, I believe, is successful, is the network that they build, right? Because they're now proven. They prove themselves that they know what they're doing. They've learned all the lessons the hard way, and they're keeping up with all the changing regulations and everything else that goes into buying a house in whatever market that you're in.
So how did you do that early on? Did you go and find your niche of finding like first-time home buyers, or how did you tackle that? Because I know after a while that'd get kind of old, getting turned down constantly. I mean, I think about coming into construction early on, and I was the wet behind the ears guy, and I'm trying to bid. I mean, I'll never forget this. Like, one of the first really big projects I got to bid was like a $6 or $7 million project in Oklahoma, and I'd gotten this lead from a referral, and this went like 3-4 rounds in the bid game, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting the owners to fly out, because at the time I wasn't a partner. I'm taking them with me. I'm trying to like really work this lead, right? And then I had a vacation coming up, and they were going to make the decision that week. And I mean, that whole week I was on pins and needles, like waiting for that phone call, because at that time, that one $6-7 million job would have been larger than any job, a single job that we had ever sold.
Right.
And I was like, man, I'm going to kill this. Like, I got this. Like, I've gone through like 4 rounds of this bid thing. Like, it's me and one other person. And then I got the phone call. And the phone call went a little like this. Well, man, I'm going to be honest with you. You've killed them. Like, your presentation was better. Your bid is actually lower than theirs. Everything. But at the end of the day, this is your first time you've ever even bid something for us. Like, we know, we checked all your references, everything. I mean, everything lines up. But the other partners will just not sign off on your first job with us being this large.
Right.
Even though you've met every standard, you've crushed them, price, everything. And it was tight, but like, you did beat them. But because they've done business with us before, they're going to go ahead and pay a little more money to not have to worry about that with this being your first job with us.
Man,
I was devastated. So how did you deal with that kind of thing starting out in the real estate game?
I experienced the exact same thing. Spent hours upon hours showing houses, building relationships. At the end of the day, it was, listen, thank you. I appreciate all the work you've done, all the time you spent. You seem very knowledgeable, but listen, my brother's friend is a realtor too, and I'm going to go with him just because it's somebody that I and my family know, right? It goes back to the same thing. It's relationships and network. Now, if I was dealing with, I did, in some cases, I was dealing with some of my dad's previous clientele, and he'd say, hey, son, go show them some houses, pull up some comps, give them the pros and cons, tell them about the neighborhood, right? All the things that a realtor should be knowledgeable about. And guess what? Those that we previously had relationships with, I closed the deal, right? Negotiated on their behalf, and sold them a house at the end of the day. But those new ones, those new contacts that you're trying to go and farm out for, those are the hard deals to close when you don't have a prior relationship, or you don't have somebody that back you that you've worked with before, right?
Yeah.
That actually gave you as a reference. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
That cold call is the crucial but brutal one,
Right.
for a while, because you just don't have the experience and the things to lean
That's exactly
on
right.
to convert that. Well, how did those early years in real estate really shape your work ethic and your approach to challenges? Was there like any specific experiences from that time that stick with you?
Yeah, it's the grind, man. I mean, at that point, you're not making any money, you're not closing any deals, not as much that you need to actually, have a living off of, right? So at that point, still living with pops, right? After moving out, coming back to the house and doing the real estate game for a certain period of time, but never giving up, no matter if, you have to cut down on expenses, on this, that, and the other, being creative with, okay, how the heck am I going to pay my car, my insurance, right? And so when you're put into that situation, you start having this, one of those either fight or flight situations.
Right.
Right. So then, you go for a certain period of time, and you learn to deal with it, to grind through that time and period of your life that you're learning. And you have to accept that fact. And that's what I did. I accepted that this is a learning experience for a certain period of time, but it's short term. Short term, it's only a season. And after this, it's going to get better. Right? It can only get better when the bar is so low.
Right. But not everybody always looks at it that way. I think that's a differentiator right there. When you see somebody that's presented with a challenge that they don't, I got to go find the next thing. Like, I don't want to do that much work, or, oh, no, I failed at this. Like, well, time to pick something else. Yeah,
that work ethic, it definitely improves and drives your work ethic that stays with you through your entire, life and career and whatever you do. It doesn't have to be work related. It can be with your hobbies or with your family or with your relationships, right?
Yeah.
So going through something like that's definitely a lesson that you take with you in every aspect of your life.
But you also kind of diversified in this time period with the ITT schooling and putting something else in your pocket.
Right.
Can you maybe walk us through that? Or was there a moment during this real estate journey where you knew you were still doing the work, now you're going to school to learn something else to add to that basket, and now you're like, I'm not sure, like, is one going to take over, or are we just keeping ourselves totally open here? But that kind of starts to shape where you're at now.
It does.
And that you're doing multiple things.
Yep. So at that time, you're right, went to school, was then gradually taking that real estate into more of a part-time whenever I got a job at Perot Systems, right? Kept the license. There was a certain period in my life where I let my license lapse. And I had to go back and retake the test, the real estate test. And I'm not sure if people who've taken that real estate test. You can be a great test taker, but the way they phrase those questions to get you. Anyway, had to take a test twice in my life to obtain, real estate license here in the state of Texas. But you're right. What happened was I went and worked at Perot Systems at the same time as going to school and maintaining my license for a certain period of time. But then there at Perot, the way I started my career was as a desktop, support guy, right? So I was at a desk, IT support, and then gradually sort of climbed that corporate ladder, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? But in doing that, it's learning the IT side of the house. So I learned, a lot at school. But again, once you get into the real world, you start looking at things differently. You start reacting to certain situations differently. But I always had my mindset to grow into that next opportunity. Like, what's next? That was always my mindset. At the same time, growing and learning different skill sets and experiences. So yeah,
in that time period, did you really know I'm passionate about this, or my purpose is X, or were you just going along with whatever opportunities and making the most of those opportunities and figuring that out along the way? Because I think a lot of people, especially in their late teens, early 20s, they are hell-bent. I know I was. What is my purpose? What is my passion? That has to align. I have to figure this out, or nothing's ever really going to work.
Yeah, I think everybody has their North Star of where they would like to be, but nobody knows at that age really truly what their passion or to your point, what that looks like, right? So it was all about just being grateful for the situation that you're in at that given time, and then continuing to grow and to build, right? That's it. I didn't know I was going to be in IT for forever, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to do real estate in the future. But what I did know is that whatever I do, I'm going to give it 110%. And there was one time, as an example, when I was a desktop support guy, right, supporting a couple of accounts, they had asked me to work overnight night shift. Imagine that, right?
Yeah,
It's
the
like,
last thing you want to do.
listen, Rene, you're doing a great job, but we have this accounts in red, and we got to flip them to green. And we think you're the guy for it. So took on the challenge, and now instead of working 8 to 5, you're working a 6 to 2 to 3, right, in the morning. And so going through that experience too, knowing that it's just a season, knowing that there's something at the end of that tunnel was also an experience as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you're just taking opportunities as they come.
That's right.
And figuring out what to do with them next.
Making the best of them too, right?
Yeah.
No matter what situation you're in, making the best out of that. And I said this a moment ago, is just being grateful for the situation you're in, whether it's because of growth, learning, or actually being in a position to where you're good, right? You are doing things well. You're being recognized. You're getting the money. You're getting the fame. You're building and you're shining. But either one of those, you should always be grateful to what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, I think this kind of leads us to a perfect point to talk about something that I think is really cool as I was getting to know you and talking to you. Your big jump in the IT world came from you reaching out to a former colleague on LinkedIn.
That's right.
Can you kind of walk us through that? Because I think a lot of people downplay reaching out and presenting themselves. Like Napoleon Hill's one of my favorite authors. Yeah. I try to read everything he puts out, and I can remember reading about him on his very first job. He wrote the CEO or president of this company and basically told him I've done everything I need to do. Yep. And I'm coming to work for you. So what would you need me to do, basically? And he sold himself.
That's right.
So where the guy called him and was like, you need to be here on Monday at 8 a.m. and wanted to meet him in person. Yeah. Because he went out there. It wasn't a job posting, but he went out and reached out. And I think that's very similar to your story. And I can't wait for you to share it with everybody.
Yeah, no, it is. I appreciate that. Yeah, so listen, when I worked at Perot Systems, like I mentioned, I climbed that corporate ladder into a executive desktop support guy, supporting the executives there and all their IT needs, going into a business analyst role, went into project management there as well, and then into a client delivery executive. So while I was there, I worked with a lady who I'll remain anonymous, but she was also in the project management department or group at the time, and got to work with her a little bit at that time. Now fast forward, right, to about a year ago. As a matter of fact, this month's been a year I've been there at Diversified. I was looking at LinkedIn, just always networking, and I saw that she had just recently rolled into this VP of PMO position. And I reached out and I said, hey, listen, how's everything going? Hope life's well. Listen, I've been in the PMO game for quite some time at the leadership level. If you're ever in need of support in growing the PMO, the project management office, to that next level, that standard that you and I are very familiar with back in the Perot days, I'd love to help. And not too, soon after, she reached out and said, absolutely, Rene, thanks for reaching out. Send me your resume. I'll pass it along, and I'd love to work together again. And from there, just had an interview with a few folks. It wasn't a position to where just because I knew the person, I got the job. It was let me pass your resume along to the right people. You have to prove yourself. You have to interview for yourself. And then if you get the job, you get the job. And that's what happened. But it's reaching out to the network, constantly maintaining those relationships, no matter how long it's been since you last spoken to them or worked with them or anything like that. It's constantly reaching out and having your, fillers out, if you will.
Yeah. And just being open to opportunities, even though you weren't like necessarily needing a job or really looking.
Exactly.
I mean, you had a good job, just you saw another opportunity and kept working through your network, which I think is so underrated. Like, people are afraid to do that, or they do it the wrong way.
Yep.
Like, they come across very desperate and like, they wait till they like need it.
Yeah.
Versus reaching out and really selling how you can be an asset and how you could really help do something. I think that makes all the difference in the world. Was any of that going through your mind at the time when you made that decision to reach out on LinkedIn?
It was taking the approach that I've always taken in the latter part of my career of reaching out to help, right? Adding value. That's always been my stance. It's always been my approach without expecting anything in return, right? And so at the time, whenever I reached out, I was running a project management office for a lab, an infectious disease lab. Speak about diversity, right?
Yeah.
Going from IT to healthcare to now to AV. And so I was killing it at that company, infectious disease lab is called Health Track RX. But this opportunity was much bigger. And so when it presented itself, to answer your question, no, I wasn't thinking that, okay, this is a for sure thing, nor did I need it necessarily, or know at the time that it was much bigger than where I was at, right? But trying to see someone who I worked with in the past, they're in a leadership role. Is there any way I can help you to grow your new organization, to help you build that new standard that we're familiar with in the past? And that's the approach I've always taken.
Well, I think you nailed it on the head there, and we talk about this a lot on our show, that you can participate without adding any value, but it is way more effective and way more beneficial to participate and add value.
Right.
So many people get that wrong, that they think just because they're participating or showing up, that's providing value.
Yep.
And that's not always the case. So if you combine those two things, that's a power move. Quit worrying about what you're going to get out of it. But if you can work harder and provide more value and participate, I mean, that's game changing right there for anybody in any field.
Absolutely.
So how did this then progress? Because now you're with a company and you guys are now doing work with NASA and other government agencies, especially from my understanding since these DOGE cuts, where I think that kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that kind of leveled the playing field for y'all like a little bit, where it's not just the government and government contracts that are awarded to X, Y, and Z every time.
Right.
Now, because they made all these cuts, everything's back out to bid.
Exactly.
We're shopping the market, and now you guys are having to do stuff like get top secret clearance so that you can work on these things. Tell us a little bit about that and how that transitioned.
Yeah, so it was interesting. I actually got hired on as a senior program manager for NASA specifically. And so when they interviewed me, they were asking about more on the project management side, because I didn't have federal experience. I didn't have
government contracted jobs.
Yeah, no, not at all, right? And so, but what they did see was the work ethic, the drive, the standards that they were looking for to put into their PMO, to instill into the PMO, and so I got hired on as that senior program manager just for NASA. And let me tell you, at first, and it still is in a lot of cases, get starstruck, right? Like, dude, I work for NASA, not directly, but indirectly. I'm my foot's on NASA site grounds at Johnson Space Center, at Kennedy, Goddard, all these different locations, and it was a similar situation to where the customer satisfaction, they had a lot of challenges at the time, right?
Yeah.
And they needed somebody to come in and really turn that around. So first thing I did was go in, build those relationships with the customer, NASA Direct, and put a lot of standards in quickly, improved a lot of areas from a reporting, communication, all of the PM standards and fundamentals that we know, put those in place. And a few months later, the company gave me responsibility of all of Federal Service Group. So now we're talking about all these other different accounts that are high profile, to your point, needed top secret clearance, and that's when I had to go through that whole process to obtain that clearance. Now we're looking at a vertical for just federal that I'm managing across several different programs, customers, accounts, and putting that same standard in place, improving that same customer satisfaction. And then just 4 months ago, they gave me responsibility for all of our media on the south side of the United States, all of our customers. And when I say media, I mean the broadcast side of it, right?
Oh, wow.
So we're talking about NBC, ABC, Univision, those type of customers that I then had to absorb and build that same standard, build that same way of delivery with what we do. And so speaking about what we do, just to back up a little bit, right? So I work for a company called Diversified, and we're known for really creating the experience of collaboration within any area, any site, any location, right? So our big customers are probably I was talking about broadcast, right? So those broadcast centers, NBC, ABC, but also on the sports media side. So if you go to Atlanta or here in Dallas or any other sports arena, we have those jobs that put in the AV systems to build that experience for the viewers, right? And all the back end that supports it. So you take that and you think, how do you instill that into the federal side of the house? It is the conference centers, the auditoriums, the conference rooms that we build that same experience for those that are there during meetings, right? If you have the President of the United States at the House or the Senate conference rooms, he wants to make sure that all of his systems are not just working well, but are secure, and they meet all of our TA compliance regulations and all that. And so that's our expertise in what we do.
That's really cool, man. Can you maybe share a memorable moment when you first really transitioned into the whole AV world where, I don't know, maybe there was a challenge you faced during the early times or something, but just something that kind of really sticks out in that for you that maybe was not as bad or was way better than you thought?
Yeah. No, so there was one site that I had to go to, and it was high profile. It was a director's room of NASA, and it was a room that the astronauts would meet up and debrief before they go out to the mission, right? So we had to get it done right, and we had a short period of time to get it done as well. And they get excited about things like that, where they want to see it ahead of time before it's even ready, right?
Yeah.
So there was a scenario.
Give us the sample.
Yeah, there was a scenario where we had these, astronauts or the directors of a NASA site that would walk in and immediately, it's a mess because we're actually in the process of the integration of setting it all up. And so they have now their ideas. Well, I want to move that display over here, or I want, instead of 6 ceiling speakers, I want 10, And so then you start getting into scope creep at that time, right? So how do we deal with that, right? So it's having difficult conversations, but steering those conversations in the right direction to say, yeah, we can absolutely do whatever you want. But we had certain channels to go through, right? There's that chain of command.
Yeah.
In the military, that's known, and it's the same way in this industry, right? You've got to follow that chain of command. You have to make sure you're not pissing off those site owners who's going to be using the room, but at the same time, you're not overselling, overpromising anything either. Right?
Yeah, because if it hasn't already made it up the rungs, you
Right.
can't be offering over here when it's got to be approved over here.
Exactly.
And then you've also got the ego thing to deal with too, I'm sure,
That's
because this guy running this site, he still has a boss or bosses to answer to, and he may want it, but you may know on the back end they're like, hey, absolutely not. We're not, like, that is top of the line. That's all they're getting. Whatever you can do in that, that's it. So juggling that has to be a real delicate situation.
It is, because contracts like that are generally fixed firm price.
Yeah.
They pay one price, and they give you certain requirements for that price, certain scope. You can't deviate from that. And imagine going to the government and asking for a change order to add more budget because of a extra display or a different functionality of the room, right? It's not going to happen. Not easily, anyway. It's like an act of Congress.
Literally. So looking back, what did that leap teach you about taking risks and stepping outside your comfort zone in your career?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I've done a lot in my career, because I can't tell you that there's either been one industry or one role that I've stepped into that I'm very familiar with, right? So, for example, as I was climbing that corporate ladder at Perot and Dell, I went into a role I've never done before, working with people in projects or customers was never familiar with. The same here. It became, being uncomfortable was comfortable to me, right? And so when you can get to that point to where you strive to be put into those uncomfortable situations, that's where you grow. That's where you grow. And so I think that's where now it's just a familiarity to me to then strive in situations like that.
Are there any other stories or lessons you can share from that whole experience of transitioning to working with those kind of clearances, or the responsibilities that carries, that you could share with us that maybe were a significant challenge to you when you're dealing with highly sensitive work?
Yeah, it's knowing what you can and cannot say and or do, right, to certain people, as well as just understanding the type of information that you're sharing as well. And so it does give you a different lens that you look through, right? When you're in that type of environment, it's thinking not twice, but 3-4 times, can I have this conversation, or should I even be in this room right now, right?
Yeah.
During a conversation that's happening. So it's, like I said, this is the first really job that I have been in this type of environment, learned a lot, continue to learn a lot, and it's exciting.
It's
right?
got to be super rewarding to just get to experience that in different challenges every single day.
It is at a different level, at a whole nother level. So when you talk about passion, right, adding value at that level to where you have certain areas of the government relying on you and your company to build this experience for them, so that way they can make their jobs easier and make certain decisions during certain meetings or certain presentations out to their organization, right? That's fulfilling. That's fulfilling.
All right, this is just going to be a fun kind of like side question, because I know we have a lot. I won't say a lot, but I do know there are a handful of our followers, and we get into these weird, quirky debates like, is the earth flat or round? Oh, shit. Has your experiences changed this for you? Or what are your thoughts on earth being flat or round?
You know, I never get into, I never think about that, nor, I mean, does it matter to me, right? How does that impact my life? I always think about that. But to your point, you do start thinking about certain scenarios such as that.
Yeah.
And you're having conversations and things like that you're like, whoa, really? Is that right? And you've got to just learn to compose yourself when you start hearing stuff like that.
I mean, I had to ask because I know in like some point, whether it's after the show or during the show, one of these guys is going to get on here and be like, well, he's the AV guy. Of course he's creating the room for them to all watch their Hollywood movie of traveling in space or whatever. Like, I know it's coming, so I just wanted to kind of get it out of the way before we get them all going there.
No, that's good. Yeah. One way or another does it.
I mean, I think it's fun. I mean, like, if you can't have fun with it, the more important thing in that to me is,
right,
and where I entertain this,
yeah,
is ask questions.
100%.
You know, like if you're just taking everything that's fed to you or everything that you watch on TV,
right,
and you don't do any critical thinking of your own, you don't ask questions or what makes this true for me?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the biggest mistake you can make.
Right.
Like, form your own opinion.
Exactly.
Go out there and really dive into something. Whether it's something as crazy as, is the earth flat or is the earth round? Or has man ever really been on the moon? I don't care what rabbit hole you want to go down.
Yeah.
I'm more impressed that you're finding something to question.
Right.
And that you're actually questioning things. And as long as you're doing that in a healthy, productive manner,
right,
cool, I'll have the conversation with you all day long.
Absolutely.
Like, I find it fascinating. I learned stuff, and like, well, they do make a really good point there, you know, and sometimes you're like, I wasn't expecting that, and then someone will make it biblical on you, or, I mean, I've seen it go every direction, so I find it intriguing.
So to answer your question directly, if I was to choose one, whether Earth is round or flat, it's round for me.
Yeah,
right?
I'm going round as well. Like I will say I have been sent some pretty creative shit that like really makes you like. I mean, you do have to think about it, but I am still going to lean on someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson,
right,
who is a fucking genius and really knows his shit.
Yeah.
If he tells me that it's not, and these guys will use this too. Like they even sent me one where he's talking where he's not necessarily saying the world is round, but it's more like a jelly bean. And I'm like, okay, that a jelly bean is still not flat, right?
Right, exactly.
Like it's still, a jelly bean will still roll, right? So whether it's this shape or this shape, and I mean, like, then you get all these crazy views.
Oh, you can go down that rabbit hole so fast.
Oh, dude, it's wild, but
yeah,
it's fun. I'm sure you guys get played with a lot on that.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Everything you do. So.
Oh, yeah.
Had to do that before they all jump in here. So, how did the whole Doge thing? Because I mean, like, that's all we hear about in the news right now, and the fight between Elon and Trump, and you know all that. Like, how has that really impacted your industry, and what changes? Like, and I assume most for the good for you guys because it's opened a lot of doors.
Yeah, so it's a two-way street, right? Doge had to go through their whole. One of the main purposes was to cut budget, cut costs, unnecessary expenses within the government, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example, real life example. you have NASA who's spending X amount for a lease at a certain location. Now, does it really make sense to pay that much money for a lease, that space in a area that really doesn't have much benefit to it one way or another? Probably not. So they had to shut that down. They had to relocate, find a different space with a different lease. Now, what that means is that we had to decommission some of the work that we did in that one space, that one site, but then it grows opportunity to build it elsewhere, right? There's a lot of consolidation, site consolidations. You'll hear this, you'll see it on the news. You can just Google it, right? NASA's budget cuts.
Yeah.
And that's a direct impact to what we do, because our business ties into brick and mortar sites where they have these locations that they're trying to put in, conference rooms or digital signage or any of the AV stuff that's really required for any of those type of government sites.
Right.
So that's how the budget cuts kind of impacted. Also slowed down when the new administration came in, and they started slicing the government budgets. A lot of these agencies really don't know just yet what their budget's going to look like for 2026. So things have slowed down a little bit until they have that in their line sight, right? So when we say that, then you have all of these contracts that are either slowing down or being canceled that will be replaced by something else, something maybe bigger or smaller, who knows. But until they do have those budgets in place for 2026, and then we'll have a better idea of what's to come. But it has slowed down the AV industry. That's something that has been known across the industry for sure.
Right on. Well, let's dive over into your historic home rehab.
Yeah.
So you're obviously learning a lot of lessons. We kind of touched on this earlier, but you bought a home that you were going to flip, and it happens to be in the historic part of the really, really rapidly growing Salina area.
That's right.
For any of you that don't know where that is, it's North Texas. What originally drew you to this particular project, and what's been the most rewarding part of that restoration so far?
Yeah, listen, so my business partner and I, who we were thinking about, where we want to start this first project, he grew up in Salina. At the time when we started this, he was living in Florida, and I was looking at all different locations, from Dallas to Plano to even Frisco, which you're going to spend a lot of money in Frisco just to make pennies in certain situations, not all, but it's hard to find those diamonds in the rough, right? Those opportunities where you can really make a good profit. And so we came across this one in Salina, went out and took a look at it, and thought that we can just do minor updates here and there, right? Maybe one addition, the front porch, add a front porch to it, right? The gable and everything, and then you have that curb appeal. It's going to attract buyers, and you could just fix up the inside, here and there a little bit. But what ended up happening was learning that even though you want to, put lipstick on a pig, if you will, you still have to go through that permitting process, right? Of obtaining a permit and really understanding what that means. To your point earlier about asking the right questions is crucial. I have a full-time job. My intent was never to do that full-time or become the GC myself, let alone the investor and the PM and everything else that goes into it, right? But I eventually had to jump into that role because the GC who I had at the time was, we were putting money into things that we just eventually had to redo because of the permitting process, right? So jumped in. Now I had to deal directly with the subcontractors. Now, do you think I'm going to reach out to the big dogs of HVAC companies or the electrical companies or the plumbing companies and say, hey guys, I want your quotes, right? And it's going to be cheap? Absolutely not. So I'm looking for these specialties who have insurance, they got license or whatever, but they're not the big companies out there in Salina.
Yeah, you're now trying to find mom and pop stuff.
Right, exactly. So learning that and dealing how to communicate with them and putting the contracts together between small subs and yourself was definitely a lesson learned, right? And then having second opinions go in and check that work as well. If I did that from the get-go, I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in right now, having to redo things 2-3 times. Now, 6-7 months later, right?
I think that's a great lesson. I mean, and I'm glad you've explained it from the point of an investor and, how you adapted throughout that. Mm-hmm. Because not everybody sees that. Like, some people will just hire somebody to come in and do all that, and a lot of people try, and that can either go one of two ways. It either goes really well or it goes really bad. Mm-hmm. And you learn the lessons of, my background in construction. You get what you pay for.
Right.
And there are clients and there are people out there that'll want you to cut corners. They'll tell you to cut corners. And, do you take that risk on? Do you not take that risk on? Mm-hmm. Because, like you said, the minute the city gets involved, and you're working in a special situation. You have one of the fastest growing cities in Texas, if not the United States. And then you have a city that's trying to make sure they're maximizing their tax dollars and revenue in every way possible while it is all booming.
Yep.
So things are constantly on the change, and you really, a lot of people think you just can hire any contractor, but you really need a contractor that has a little bit of a thumb on that pulse.
Right.
In that area. What in that area? Like, right. What is going on? Like, what do we? I remember how that changed in Arlington. Arlington, pre-Jerry World being built in Arlington, mm-hmm. Arlington was real easy to work with. But once it became known and they started passing all the bonds and everything to build the stadium out there, mm-hmm. well, guess what? All that changed almost overnight.
Yep.
Now they got more inspectors. They're bringing in more money. They want to control everything. Now they're changing their standards. They're changing what year and code books they're enforcing. And some of that stuff can be power plays by the powers that be, because X land or property wouldn't sell, wouldn't go away, and they're fighting the big boys. Well, guess what? Now you're doing work on that property, and now the city is going to make your life completely miserable, not because of you, but because they want that property gone, yeah. Or they want to turn it into a parking lot, right. Or whatever the situation is. So there are so many things that can come into play in that you have to, and I always think that's like the tricky side of the investing thing in there. Like, and you didn't just take on a normal flip. You picked a historic home,
right?
Which requires craftsmanship, a higher end thing. Like, I can only see all the lessons learned there of, like, you can't just put lipstick on a pig when it comes to a historic home. Like, that's not even possible.
It's not, right? It's a house that was built in 1940s, and if you think about it, an investor that wants to just go into a home that was built in the 1940s and think that they could just put some new drywall, paint, kitchen, flooring, and all that, and then flip it, man, that's going to be hard, right? Especially now that you have to go through the city. Once you go through the city, the requirements that they had before in the 1940s are nothing like the requirements they had today.
Oh, no, that's not even close.
That's what we had to. So to your point, you're absolutely right. The historical area, They wanted to ensure that anything that's being remodeled met a certain standard, right?
Yeah.
Your gable has to have, 2 by or 4 by 12s on the front pier, and you have to have, shutters, and you have to have certain windows and sizes.
Well,
and
you have
things
to
and that and the other.
maintain, like, you have to, when it comes to historic stuff, you have to maintain the look.
Exactly.
And the craftsmanship is usually the overall goal of the people responsible for maintaining that within the city. So you have a craftsmanship that's hard to find now, a quality of craftsmanship, a certain look, and you got to bring it up to structural standards and codes of today.
That's right.
Like, that is the worst combination for a new investor or a young investor that is trying to flip a home, in my opinion.
You're 100% right.
I mean,
Because
if you're wanting to put lipstick on a pig, or you want to go in and show how creative you are, you need to find something that is definitely not considered historic.
That's right.
Because that's not where you play. That's where the big boys play.
That's right.
You want to go do something in historic McKinney, Old Town, or something like that. I mean, those are two true craftsmanship homes. And you're very, very limited in those scenarios. But if you know how to do the game right and you have those quality contractors, you can do things. I mean, I have a very good friend, Chase, that is excellent at this stuff. Chase and Misty kill that stuff.
Yeah.
But they have the people.
That's right.
And they've learned all those lessons. And they didn't start off doing historic homes. They were buying, 1980s, 1990s homes that really just needed to be freshened up. They're 20, 30 years old, and going in and renovating the kitchens and the bathrooms and stuff like that, and the backyards, cool. They got all that down.
Yep.
But now they play in the other one as well. For a new investor, I would definitely stay away from that.
No, 100%. I couldn't agree more, right? I would rather do a rebuild like this in an area, to your point, that doesn't have that level of standards or artsmanship that is required in an historical area, right? Now, I have learned a lot about Salina. I've built now relationships with the inspectors to understand exactly what I need to do to push this thing through.
Yeah.
But it took 6 months later, right?
Yeah.
And since it is a fast-growing area, doesn't mean that they have the personnel to support all these permits.
Or that they move fast.
They don't. Yes. Yes. No, not at all. I mean, just to get permits in areas like that, it's going to take months just to get the permits after you have the plan submitted, right?
Absolutely. So obviously this historic restoration is a huge undertaking.
Right.
What has that process taught you about patience, attention to detail, and long-term vision now that you're starting to get to a point where you can look back on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, definitely has grown patience. It's one thing my wife tells me is, you're probably the most patient man I know on God's green earth, right? It's because of situations like this, but also understanding up front, instead of diving right into something like that a new investor is very excited to put their money towards something that they think they can just, flip real quick. I thought this was going to be a 3-month project, 2 months to...
Yeah, and what if your loan was dependent upon
Exactly.
that? You could be in a really bad place really fast.
That's 100% right. Yeah, you're 100% right. And so going from thinking that you can flip something within, 3 months, 2 or 3 months, to now 7-8 months later, right? And still you're not even putting in the flooring or the walls, or you're still trying to get MEP inspection passed,
MEPs is your mechanicals, your electrical, and your plumbing. For those of you that don't know that term.
Yeah. I mean, and that's where you start learning those hard lessons of being patient, trust but verify, right? Having multiple opinions instead of just going with the first guy that you think that can do the job. And once I do have that crew that's set and is proven, it's going to be a game changer. Knowing everything that I know now and still learning, but then having the right people to do the job, man, game over.
It can be. It makes all the difference in the world for sure. I mean, how has this restoration project impacted your life and work outside of that? And has maybe that influenced or changed your perspective on other aspects?
Yeah, so listen, I mean, I've got a day job that I still spend 70, 80 hours, a week in. And so the family definitely suffers a little bit with having less time with me around, right? Or I'll bring them out.
4 kids is a lot to keep up with.
I know, 4 kids and Latina wife that is very, territorial with my time, So
that's not just a Latina thing.
No, yeah. That's just experience I have. But taking them out on that journey with me when I can is very important on the weekends or late nights during the week, right? Just think about it. If you're not working your day job and you're not working on this project, you got very little time to do anything else. So then that appreciation starts building up once you do get past that point to where, all right, now I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it was all worth it, right? Because now I'm doing something that's bettering my family, myself, and I can do things now 2x, 3x, 10x eventually. But you got to go through that. You have to go through that experience before you can get there.
Absolutely. Well, man, you couldn't have set this transition up for me any better. I love it. You're just like rolling right into them for me today. One of the things I think is really cool, man, and it's something you and I got to talk about a little bit. And I think it was just one of those common grounds because we both, coming out of COVID, it sounds like, started back on a health and fitness journey. Yeah. And I know it's something that's become very important to you. It's very important to me. And it's something that I think a lot of us start out with early on, because we're way more active and we're out doing things that are physical and fun and we're having fun with it. And then as life starts to grab its hold on you, you slowly, a lot of people, let that go the complete opposite direction, whether intentionally or not. And then the difference you see in the people that don't go down that road and that continue down the health and fitness, or the people that make that change in their life, is absolutely massive. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you see someone walking into a room that is keeping their fitness and health in check, it tells you so much right there. And what better place to start when you don't have things figured out? I wish I'd have leaned on that even more in my early 20s, and
right.
Just really hammered at that, like the stress relief. Mm-hmm. What you learn in pushing and testing yourself, and then just all the benefits that come with it. What took you back down that road? Because I think that's important for people, because everybody knows my story on this, but what about you? Because I think that's interesting that you did this as well.
Yeah, so I think about 3-4 years ago, I noticed that I was fatigued all the time. My stress levels were high. My eyes were twitching. All these signs, I was gaining weight and it was not looking good, right? To the point to where I had to make a decision for my family, for myself, right? And I took it one step at a time, without expectations. I did not expect any growth changes, rapid changes, overnight. That wasn't my mentality. I knew that it was more of building a habit, in what I ate and what I did was going and working out.
Yeah.
Making sure that I had the right amount of sleep, things like that early on, that it just built into now more of a routine and a habit and a way of life than it is just going in and doing because I have to, right?
Yeah, it's the habit, the discipline, and all that forms that. And I think that's what so many people miss out on, is it literally does, when you really commit to that, the discipline, creating the habits, it really does. Like, it's a complete way of life.
It is. And once you get into it, it's not easy. By no means.
Absolutely not.
Is it easy?
But it also affects every part of your life.
It does, because you take that now mentality that you have grown within your physicality, and you put that in every other aspect of your life, whether it's family or work or friends or hobbies. Man.
Yeah, you feel better. You think better. You're more motivated.
Yeah.
You have a different level of confidence in whatever you're doing, because you're not worried about shit, I'm 20 pounds overweight. Man, I can't even wear my favorite shirt anymore, or whatever health problem you're having, And I mean, I know some of these things are not possible for everyone, but, I'm still of the mindset and theory of do what you can do. Because I had the same mentality, man. Thank God I was smart enough to not think that I could go in to the gym 2 years ago when I started back on this journey again at 43 and being as overweight as I was. Thank God I didn't think I could just go in there and turn on 27-year-old Garrett again. And, or even 37-year-old Garrett, and do that right away. It's not realistic. And I think that's what messes a lot of people up. They have unrealistic goals when they get back in, and they think it's going to happen overnight.
That's right.
I'm still 2 years later. I may jog every now and then, but when it comes to cardio, I don't run. I'm not going to do that to my knees and the rest of my body.
I'm the same way.
There's no point. I can do way more effective things for my goals just by walking. Yeah. Now, it might mean that instead of running for 20 or 30 minutes, I have to walk for 45 minutes to an hour.
Or maybe on an incline.
And add incline, add speed, add other variables.
Right.
But pushing yourself in different ways that you start learning to train smarter too. It's not about this always having this peak heart rate.
Right.
When you find out your zones, it's no, really, I'm still trying to burn fat. So I need my heart rate to stay here in this zone.
But how did you know that? How did you know that that's what you had to do?
I paid for coaching and training, and I've done that off and on throughout my entire life. And the first time I did it, which I've been trying to find these, so I know I'm just going to have to do it again. But I signed up, and this was probably about 38 years old when I got back into Lifetime, and Naz and I first started training together. I did the food sensitivity test. I bought a package from Lifetime, where this package gave me a little sheet that I took to a LabCorp. I fasted. I did blood testing. And that blood test told me what foods I was sensitive to, that my body was not optimizing. Until you get your gut restored and reset and you have all those things working right, that's important to know, because you might, for me, it was weird things like flaxseed, egg whites, blueberries, things that I like, all things that sound and are considered healthy, quote unquote. But because of whatever condition my gut was in, I wasn't processing those things well. Whey protein, another one.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard it is to go out if whey is not processing right with you, to find essentially a vegan pea protein that doesn't suck and tastes decent?
Right.
Challenging.
Yeah.
I can tell you what it is though. learning those things, you know, and like doing that whole thing. And that also came with a metabolic test where it's basically like the stress test where you see the guys in the gym where they put you on the machine, you're on the treadmill,
Right.
and you got the oxygen mask, and it's rating and telling you everything about your oxygen intake and output, and it tells you your metabolic levels and cardio, which is huge because then you get these reports back, and now if you can use that information, now you're set. Because you find out, like for me, it was keeping my heart rate between, I want to say like 108 and 118. That is fat burning for me. Mm-hmm. That is where I'm optimally burning fat. That's huge, you know, and knowing that, like, I don't have to run to stay in that. I can go 3.8 miles per hour on the treadmill at a 6 incline and walk my happy ass for as long as I want to go or that I have time for.
So investing in those things is important. I have yet to do the metabolic test or is it the DNA one too, where you know?
I haven't done the DNA one. This was just a straight up food sensitivity through lifetime that I did.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? Because then you are making educational decisions that's beneficial for you as an individual.
Well, and it helps you a lot to put into perspective and to know how to tweak what you're doing.
Sure.
Right? Because you do want results. And one of the biggest things in weight loss journey versus the person I was in my my teens into my early to late 20s, where putting on weight and size was the only goal I had. Mm-hmm. That's different. I had a crazy high metabolism.
Yeah. And
learning to train for that. But then when that switches on you as you get older, learning the reverse and opposite of that, whole different game. Mm-hmm. So to have those tools and to do those things is huge, you know, and sometimes it does take, I mean, unless you're really good at learning online, or, I mean, I'm sure, and there's YouTube videos for us. I highly recommend hiring a coach or a trainer, somebody that knows and can help you do that, because some of the greatest lessons I learned in that are like, you know, we all know muscle weighs more than fat, but the part that a lot of us miss on is when you're going through that journey, you can get caught in the trap of living and dying by that scale every week.
Yeah.
And a regular scale is not going to give you the full picture, right? You still need the mirror test, and you could use other data if you have access to it. Because you're going to look at those things and say you hit all your training goals that week. Mm-hmm. You put in the work, you ate clean, you didn't do anything, and everything, you know, if I do this, I should lose 3 to 4 pounds that week, right?
Yeah.
You get on the scale and the needle didn't move. Or maybe it moved in the other direction and you actually gained a pound. Well, if you're not taking measurements, like proper measurements of your full body, or you don't have access to another scale mm-hmm. that can give you more information than just that weight number, how do you know that you didn't just kill that week? You're upset and bent with yourself because you went up a pound when you thought you'd be down at least 2 to 3 pounds. Well, problem. Maybe you did. Maybe you lost 1/4 of an inch off your arms or your legs. Maybe you lost 1/2 inch in your waist, but you didn't take those measurements, so you don't know.
Exactly.
All you saw was that needle go up. So you lost 1 inch in your waist, you lost 1/4 of an inch on your arms or your legs, and you gained probably 2 to 3 pounds of muscle, because losing that, you burn a whole bunch of extra fat off. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the muscle weighs a little more. So you actually moved the scale up.
Right.
That doesn't mean your week was a failure.
Yeah.
But people want that instant gratification, that instant change when it comes to their health and their fitness.
Everybody has their own ways of measuring, what they want to achieve. I got to tell you, in the 3.5 years, almost 4 years that I've gotten this fitness kick, right? I don't think I've weighed myself but a handful of times, maybe, right? Because that was never a metric for me. It was
How do I look? How do I feel?
Exactly. What am I eating? How do I look? Am I energized, right? Do I have more energy throughout the day? Am I sleeping well? Man, the sleep thing's important.
Sleep is huge.
If you're not getting enough sleep or the right type of sleep, I invested a lot of money in my bed. Like that is you spend 25 to 30% of your life in sleeping.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one of the things that I definitely invest in, what you eat and the exercises that you do. Right? So like I said, everybody has their different ways of doing it.
So was this a lot personal driven or family driven? Where did your refined, renewed passion for health and fitness come from?
It was personal, and then with the kids, right?
Yeah.
I would at the time try to play with the kids, either soccer or basketball, and I would just be too clumsy or easily hurt myself, right? Roll an ankle, or my son would juke me, and things would just happen. You do, right? And so I had to tell myself, I was like, listen, I don't want 3-4 years from now me to not be able to get up because of my knees, or be able to keep up with my kids to a certain degree. I want that lifestyle of enjoying life, doing the things that I love doing with my kids, with my family.
Plus they learn from watching you.
That's important, man. I love it when my girls have 8 and 9-year-old girls, and my 12 and 16-year-old boys love it when they just get up out of bed without me even have to ask to go to the gym with me, right? Because then you start being that example that they want to then become. My wife too, she goes to the gym almost every day that I go, and we'll go together, right? She has her gym partner, I've got mine. Sometimes most of the time I just work out by myself, but then you have the kids join you, and then now it's a representation of the family creating those same habits, right? I didn't have that as a kid. I don't remember my family, my parents going to the gym or walking or doing this and that and the other. Ride bikes, or we'll do some sport activities. But when you create then that sort of person that your kids now want to be, that reflect positive, and you get complimented on that all the time, that speaks
awesome.
volumes. That's great. That right there then instills not just confidence in yourself, but confidence in your kids as well.
Do you guys prefer working out with somebody or by yourself?
Me, I'm not sure if it's a preference thing, but
I take the kids out. You
yeah.
Time with your man, but if you went in there today, you'll let me working with you there. Like,
And I have.
Personally, I hate it. I like to work out by myself because I can stay focused. I don't have to wait, or I don't have to switch and move plates.
Right.
Because I always work out with somebody that's a little desperate.
Sure.
But then I do love showing them proper form.
Exactly.
And showing them, but my time is always limited. So I got a hard 90 minutes and I got to go.
Yep.
When I work with somebody, you added like another 20, 25 minutes to me.
So if somebody comes up and says, hey, Rene, let's get some reps in together. Hey, one of these days, let's do leg day together. Let's do this and that. And I can tell that either they can keep up with me, or I might have a challenge keeping up with them because of whatever reason, right? Then I'll take on that sort of challenge. If it's somebody who is looking to build from ground zero or try to get back into it, then I won't spend as much time, because then that's taking time away from what I'm trying to achieve, right? So
yeah, it's definitely a very PG, politically correct.
No, I mean, that's it. I mean, it goes back to to your point. If I see somebody with the form,
I see what you're saying, though. I mean, For me, it can go both ways. I really like if you have the right person to train with, like Naz. When Naz and I can get to train together, whether that was us just working out together or whether I was paying him to train me. Either way, I love that. Naz is in way better shape than me. He's a bigger guy, he's a much stronger guy, and he has a lot more experience than me. So it pushes me. And we know each other well enough that I know what days he hates, and that's because of old injuries and stuff like that, or stuff that's actually harder for him. Like he hates shoulder days. Like I can tell you that right now. And it's the only day I could like really go with him, get after him. I hate leg days. I mean, I will do the most bare minimal of whatever I have to do legs wise outside of cardio. Like I'm not the guy that wants to be over there squatting on the rack, showing I can do 500 pounds. I mean, I want to do leg presses, leg curls seated or whatnot. You know, like I fucking hate lunges. I hate the whole sumo squat with a dumbbell. Like, and Naz knows that, man, and he will push me. He will superset that stuff with something to where it's with something I like to do and something I don't like to do. Yeah. That way it takes my mind off of it periodically and stuff. And we work well together, but I don't like doing cardio with other people. Like I do not want to talk and sit and have a conversation while I'm on a fucking treadmill or a bike.
I couldn't do it.
I want to put my headphones in. I want to go to that mental place, and I want to go.
That's right.
I don't. That's my time to be up in my head. You know, like all I got to do is keep one foot in front of the other, and I want to do it that way. And I don't mind the days where I train on my own because then that's music in the headphones, and I can zone out, and same thing, and I can push myself. But I also don't want to do that constantly. I still like to mix in training, interaction, because it pushes you. It makes you go like, you'll get really comfortable.
Accountability, even if you're training somebody.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be, first of all, you want to finish all your reps and do that 6 to 8, and then you don't want to look. It really makes you more accountable for when you're doing it with them, because you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. And you don't want to short yourself, especially if you're guiding somebody. I don't know, man. Just like I've been really selfish in the gym, and I love it because actually, with all the kids and everything else, that's my me time.
Yeah.
But you can also really get caught up in your routine, and if you're not conscious of it, like I don't like to write down. I keep all my things up here in my head.
So do I.
I know how much I lift typically. Like today, I had a really good day. Like, man, I was stacking weight on, like, and it felt really light. 2 days ago, man, I was lower in weight and, you know, just trying to get reps in. But for whatever reason, today when I was in the gym this morning, weight didn't feel as heavy. I pushed some heavy weight today. But again, to me, it's more, how are you feeling today? Where are you at? Like, there's a reason my watch has a little thing where I can say, how hard was your workout today?
Right.
Man, this felt like shit.
Yeah.
Or I went really hard in the paint. Or it was easy. It was just easy. I know I didn't push myself. Or was I tired? You know, tracking those things, I think what you said is key. You can't out-train a shitty diet, first and foremost. So get your diet in check. Go to the doctor and find out your baselines. Get your blood work done every 4 months and know what's going on with your body, especially after you're 30. Like for men, like after you're 30, like go do your blood work regularly.
Here's one thing I would say, because you hit something that I don't think we talk about, is that accountability thing. If you're just getting out, starting a routine, I think it's key to have an accountability partner, because you're not used to now having that habit just yet.
True.
So if you're just getting started, find somebody who can, you know, keep you accountable. You keep them accountable, and y'all have this agreement. And that will get you then to that next level to when now it becomes a habit, now it becomes routine, and then you can go by yourself and do it on your own.
Well, for that, I've invited several people, especially from here. We all share workouts in our iPhones.
Yep.
So every time somebody finishes a workout, you can see everything they did, whatever. Attaboy, or where were you at today? Like Josh, every day, every morning. If you don't see nothing on the watch by 9 o'clock, where you at?
Make it a competition.
Oh, all the time, man.
Yeah, you have to do things like that. And I mean, the other thing I think is crucial for people, especially if you're busy, and I want to get your thoughts on this too in a minute. Starting out especially, I don't care what early is for you. Like if you normally get up at, let's just say 7 a.m., what happens if you make your workout 5 a.m.? Like you get up at 5 a.m., go to the gym and get your shit done. Mm-hmm. And then at 7 a.m., you're getting ready for work like you normally do. I think that's where you start. Like start off in the morning, because the reality is 99% of the time, you're not going to get a family call, a business call, or anything that will derail you other than yourself at 5 a.m.
100%.
And knock that out. Don't be the person that's like, well, this week I'm going to start working out, but I'm going to do it after work. Guess what? Between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. when you get off work, how many things can happen that are either going to derail you or be an excuse for you? Oh, now I'm tired. Oh, today was really hard. Oh, I still got this, and this to do. I didn't get all these things done today. You'll find 1,000,001 excuses, but at 5 a.m., there are no excuses other than yourself.
You got the most go get 'em the first thing in the morning. You got the biggest amount of go. The rest of your day is easy when you knock it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it all becomes easy in there. But so I see the later part of what you just said on your journey, where now, not only for you, it's become a family thing.
Right.
What about before that happened? How did you find, like I just said, the 5 a.m. club? How did you find balance with all that you have going on to get yourself back in that routine before the kids and the wife saw that this was sticking and that this was going to be a new norm for you?
No, it was a solo journey for me when I first started. It was that 5 o'clock in the morning, getting into the gym and grinding every single day, right? But that's the commitment that I made myself. And I don't think I've ever worked out after afternoon time, right? It was always when the gym first opened up. I go to LA Fitness over in Prosper. When that gym first opens up, that's where I'm at. And I'm grinding. When I get home, that's when make some coffee and the kids start waking up, right? Mm-hmm. And I start getting ready for the day. Now I can get up at 6, right, and then go by 6:30 and have my wife join me or have my kids join me, right? But when I first started, and it goes back to that journey of what do you need to do to build that habit, is you've got to unfortunately either do it on your own or do it with somebody who's going to keep you accountable at that time every single day. Not like 7 days a week, but every single day you have planned to do that, to train and to work out. So yeah, earlier on, it was 5 o'clock every morning.
I mean, that's the same thing I did at 38 when 40 was fast approaching and I was out of shape, and I was still a paying member at Lifetime, and I went in there and I was like, all right, here's the deal. I was talking to a little salesperson, right? I'm like, all right, I want somebody that is badass, that knows their shit, and that'll work out with me and train me at 5 a.m. Who is available at 5 a.m.? She goes, I got just the person for you. That's when I met Naz. Naz came, he's like, all right, you're paying me. He's like, so you're paying me, and I'm going to be here at 5 a.m. You don't call me 24 hours in advance and tell me that, if by 5 p.m. the night before you don't tell me that you have to reschedule because of work or something, and you no-show at 5 a.m., I'm charging you.
Absolutely.
Like, that's a no-show.
Yep.
Unless you are deathly ill and you can, like, show me that you are deathly ill.
Right.
He's like, I'm like, all right, fair enough. Well, after a whole year or so of doing that and consistently always being there, he's like, I was like, man, I think I'm going to take a break from training for a little while. Like, I'm going to keep doing it. Just, I think I want to just see what progress I can make on my own now. And I need to, cut back on funding for a little bit, like training's not cheap, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, yeah, all right, man, no problem. He's like, you know what, man? He's like, fuck that. He's like, I need someone to work out with. He's like, if I can work out with you and it still stays at 5 a.m. and you show up, then we'll just work out together. He's like, I'll be in street clothes, like blah, 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 but we'll work out 5 a.m. Because 6 a.m. I got to be done because I'm going to have a client coming in.
That's right.
All right, cool, bet, we're on.
Yep.
And you know what? And that went on for a long time until COVID happened. So I highly encourage people to do that, and I mean, I've had different coaches throughout, like, find what's going to work for you. When I got really out of shape and coming out of COVID, I didn't go right back to NAS. I started off with Alex. You guys saw Alex on the show with Whiskey Weight Loss. And I needed a different mentality at that point because I knew I couldn't just jump into that. And I knew I would be frustrated with that situation because it was what I was used to. So
you said something earlier about getting sick. Do you find that since you've been on this journey of working out all the time, that you get sick less?
Oh yeah, when I got my health and everything in check, like, I am back to the point now where if I've gotten myself really run down, like physically, mentally, and everything, I get sick about once a year, and it really kicks my ass.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened in a while now, but if I do, it's like once a year. Whereas COVID and all that, man, like, I was getting sick real regularly.
Right.
And that was not a good place to be.
Those are more exceptions than anything. But iCryo or NAD or red light, you try any of those stuff?
No, I haven't tried NAD yet. I do TRT and I do peptides periodically, but I don't. I have to watch stuff very carefully as far as, like, heart disease runs in my family.
Yeah.
I'm on cholesterol and blood pressure medication, so I haven't taken like a pre-workout type drink in a really long time.
Okay.
I do have one that I use because it's all natural, caffeine free, and it's beets basically. I do use that occasionally.
Right.
But now that I'm at where I'm at, that makes me feel really fucking weird, to be completely honest. Like, even something like that, I feel warmer and I run hot naturally. So
yeah, me too.
To be all that, like, niacin, like, tingly skin feeling and to feel that much more heat coming off of you, I just don't really like that feeling. Now, I do take key supplements, like, especially when I'm training heavy. I will take, like, I have my pea protein. I have some different proteins I use for different things, like One Up Nutrition and what's the other one? I don't know why I can't think of it right now. It starts with a P, but anyways, I take those. I take collagen.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Bub's All Natural Collagen. It supports a great cause, and it's really clean and really good. Lifetime stuff is really good as well. I take instantized creatine, but apparently with all the meat and taking the creatine that I'm doing in my diet right now, my creatine's running a little high, so backing off of that a little bit. That was just recent blood work analysis. I take CLAs.
Yep.
Evening Primrose, and there's one other. It's like LCAs or something like that. L something. NAS. Naz kind of tells me like, hey, these are the key things. And then really just keeping my diet clean for the most part.
That's
you
right.
know, for 60 days, I pretty much cut out alcohol, sugar, dairy, carbs, all that stuff. Was just eating, you know, turkey, chicken, fish, shrimp, and green vegetables.
Yeah. The cryo stuff, right? That cold plunge.
I've done cryo. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that cold plunge, man. That, you can't tell you how much benefit that does give you from a.
I would have been mad at you until I went to the gym today, because Lifetime 3 months ago put in a cold plunge, and I love it. I got addicted to it.
Yeah, it's
and
good.
It was like one of my favorite things in the world. First, I could only do it for 30 seconds. I worked all the way up to 3 minutes in that damn thing.
Nice.
It has now been down for almost 2 damn months.
I hate that.
Driving me absolutely insane. It is finally back up and operational today, so I will be cold plunging tomorrow, and I cannot wait.
Yeah.
Cold plunge is amazing for what it does to you. Now, I will caution and tell you, because I learned this recently, if you have had a heart attack or have certain heart issues, cold plunging is not a good idea. So if you have anything you're concerned about health-wise, ask your doctor first. Like, don't just start
That's
cold
right.
plunging.
Yeah, 100%. Now, yeah, I started doing that early on too, and if it's not a cold plunge, it's a damn cold shower. Man, you get that.
That's the only thing I have that. I hate cold water.
You get that routine going.
Cold
though,
shower
that'll-
is harder than cold plunge, because cold shower gives you too many variables. And if you start off hot and then you try to go cold, that's going to be miserable.
Yeah.
If you just go straight cold, are you going to do lukewarm? Are you really going to get cold? How cold can you get it? Cold plunge, you have to just get in that fucker, like all the way, like get in there and do it. And then your body starts going kind of numb, and then you can ride it out for however long you can mentally stand it. It's a mental thing. It is 100% a mental thing, but the health effects, I think, are absolutely amazing.
What are they? What does it do? Does it
Like,
stop the
it
body
takes
to
your body pulls in blood, and it pulls everything into your key organs because it thinks you're gonna freeze to death. So it draws everything in, and then when you get out, it lets it all back out. So it kind of like cleans and like lets all those toxins out. So like you get rid of inflammation if you've just done a big workout. Like, I've never been sore after a workout that I cold plunged after.
But you want your body to get the temperature back up on its own. You never want to get into a cold plunge and then go to the sauna, right? That's
I do sauna then cold.
that's exactly right. Yeah, that's the order you go, and then let your body just heat up naturally.
I'm broke. I go to Planet Fitness, so the only cold plunge we get is if the AC is up too high. We go outside. We can't afford that stuff. Y'all gotta check it. I do the business class and check it out once it's fixed.
You know how many times I've heard him say, "Hey man, I'm gonna come work out with you and Naz one day," or "Hey man, I'm gonna show
right?
up, like, I'm gonna come do this," or "I want to try it out." "Hey man, I got guest passes. You just let me know when." Does he ever call to say, "Hey bro, Tuesday, let's work out"? No, don't happen.
I can bring a guest anytime.
Yeah.
The LA Fitness membership, you have 2 guests you can bring as many times you want at any time.
Much money as you pay, you should be able to. That's cool.
So you let me know whenever you.
Yeah,
Worked
it's
out.
cool. Well, man, let's dive back into something else here, because I think this is cool to talk about, and I want to hear what made you do this and what you guys are trying to do with that. So, Industrial Cigars has started doing a lot of cool little groups here for the members. There's literally starting to be a group for everything, whether you're into cigars and guns, you're a father, you like to golf, you like to travel, you're into whiskeys and tequilas and scotches. I mean, like literally, or you're just a newbie to cigars. Like, they have groups for everything. You are part of a group they're doing up here that is a mastermind, kind of a collaboration group. It's a collective mastermind group, if I have that right. What's going on with all that, and what made you dive into that?
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, I wanted to surround myself with like-minded individuals. Going back to the famous author Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
One of the chapters in there, the key things that they talk about is masterminds, right? So surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals to hold each other accountable and help grow in all aspects of your life. It doesn't have to be just professional, it can be personal as well. And so I got together with a few guys, and it started with a group of 2, 3, 4 people that I considered very inspirational. They had leadership attributes to what they did at the time, and that just grew after time, and going back to habits, right? It's continuing to meet up every month, and we meet up here at ICC, and we talk about, we have a clear agenda, it's structured, and we have key takeaways where we've been trying to bring in now books into the group. Let's all take a book, read it, come back, talk about what we learned as one part of what we discussed, right? But it's going over what is the challenge that we're dealing with, how can we collectively help with those challenges, what are the successes, let's help celebrate the successes in our life as well.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the types of things that we like to discuss and then share our networks as well. If there's a need, every individual either is a business owner or is a leader within their organization, and so we're constantly thinking about and working towards, who do I need to introduce you to?
Yeah.
How can I help you? It's less of what you can do for me, and it's more of how can we help each other out.
That's awesome, man. Let me know next time you are meeting up. I'll come be a part of this.
You're definitely invited to the next one. It's called Leadership Collective, and we meet monthly, so I'll definitely let you know when the next one is.
How has mentors played a role in your life? Have there been any big mentors in your life?
I think we all have to have at least one mentor during the season that we're going through, right? That's just something that I have learned earlier in my career, and I've had mentors from someone who I've worked with or someone who I've met in an establishment like this at ICC, where I can learn from, grow from, help hold me accountable. I've even had leadership coaches that I spend a lot of money on, or the company I work for spend a lot of money on.
Yeah.
And those leadership coaches would, again, not just talk about how I'm doing within my career, but what's going on within the personal life as well. And so I think it's a honestly, as especially as a leader, that you're leading others, whether it's your family or leading others within your career, you've got to constantly continue to search to grow, and the best way to do that is to learn from somebody who has already gone through certain experiences that you can learn from.
I agree 100%. That's exactly why I do this podcast.
Yeah.
So you've had a pretty diverse career so far, and you're into a lot of different things. What's maybe one thing you've learned about life that you wish more people understood?
Then probably the biggest thing I would share is, no matter what season you are in your life, just learn to be grateful for the season that you're in, right? We all have shirts on our backs. There's food on the table. There's things that, even little things that we can all continue to be grateful for. I think if there's one thing that I would put out there into this world is, no matter what season your life is, whether it's high peaks or low peaks, be grateful for the current situation that you're in, and know that if it is a low low peak, then that season will too pass, right? And it will always get better. And if you're in a season that everything is going well, share that with others, right? Try to be a mentor yourself as well, so that way you can teach others to go through that same type of success or learn from your success. But the gratitude piece, I can't tell you and stress enough how important that is, because that's going to always keep our mindset to where it needs to be to continue to move forward.
Gratitude's hard. Like, I think that's one that I agree with you 100%. Like, it's definitely needed, whether you have to simplify that down at times, like gratitude for your accomplishments or the things that you have in your life. I mean, however simplified you can make that is very important.
Right.
It doesn't have to be this, but I want to stress that it doesn't need to be this huge gratitude movement. You know, like, it seems like a lot of the influencers and stuff want to make it this gratitude movement where you have to do almost like meditation when someone's selling you on meditation. You know what I mean? Like, gratitude could be simplified to just being appreciative for the things, the people,
right,
or the things you've accomplished in your life, or that day, or that workout.
Yeah.
It can be very simple, and you can start small. Like, it doesn't have to be this huge gratitude practice, but I do think you need to take a little time to stop and smell the roses little bit, whether it's at the bottom, like you said, or at the top. Like, because it's really easy to get lost in that.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not putting a face of everything's great at all times, right? That's not what I mean. Mm-hmm. It's deep down inside being grateful or having appreciation for where you're at in certain aspects of your life.
I agree 100%. I think people in general today, that gets kind of caught up.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like throwing around purpose or passion.
Yeah.
You know, like, if there's not a little more context, some people go down that rabbit hole, man, and like, it's dangerous.
Yep.
Because they don't know what to do when they can't find it right away. Mm-hmm. Or they get lost in it, or they think there has to be this concrete thing that they find, you know, like they're searching for that treasure. If you don't find the Titanic, guess what? What do you do then? And I think that's where people get so confused and lost. And if you don't have the right direction or mentors or guidance in your life, I mean, I know I struggled with this for years when I was in my teens and early 20s. Like, I thought there was some magic thing I had to find, or somebody was going to tell me something, you know, or I had to learn this thing, and that was going to answer everything, you know, like, instead of really kind of enjoying the process and the journey along the way.
That's right.
And like letting those things come and just being open and putting that best foot forward and working hard. And, you know, I instinctively or intuitively did a lot of those things, but yet in the back of my mind, I was searching for that, like, find that golden nugget. Here's the key. If I read one more book, or I went to one more seminar, or I did this, but like, so many people get caught up in that shit.
Yeah.
That I kind of want to help people, I do want to help people see that there's other things you can do and other ways around that. Like, how many seminars or coaching things have you been to? I mean, I know I have books of them where I took all these copious notes. How many of those things afterwards did you actually apply or put into practice? Not many, I bet.
Yeah.
Yet you just did all this. Like, that was supposed to be the thing that taught you or pushed you to the next level, or this great concept, or, you know, whatever. Like, find things you face, but like, do it with a plan and a goal, and you'll find the purpose and the passion within that. Like, so many people chase those things. It's frustrating when you see somebody that has it and to like figure that all out.
Yeah.
And parents don't always do the greatest job of explaining those things to you in life
You're
growing
right.
up, right?
Yeah.
And who are you looking for to tell you what are you supposed to do? What is my place in the world? What am I going to go do? What am I supposed to do? Well, what if that doesn't fit right then and there? Is it supposed to? Is it not supposed to?
Yeah, so you hit a lot of good key points here that I'm a strong believer in, right? It's having your goals, having targets, pushing yourself for not perfection, but doing everything in your power to achieve the goals that you want to achieve, right?
Being the best version of yourself.
Exactly. But there's that whole expectations piece to it, right? You don't want to go into something expecting things are going to happen overnight, but you do know that you're going to go through this journey and you're going to appreciate the hell out of that journey every step of the way, and know that there's going to be roadblocks, know that there's going to be a whole bunch
And it's not always going to be easy to do that.
No, it's not. No.
Like
no,
there's
it's
going to
not.
be days you're going to hate the decision you made.
Oh, yeah.
Or question everything.
Yeah. You go
There's
into
nothing
it.
wrong with that, though.
You go into it knowing that you will make some bad decisions. You will probably trust the wrong people. You shouldn't intentionally, but
Did you learn anything?
did you learn anything, right? So for just like the whole real estate fix and flip deal, I'm going through hell doing it, but I'm appreciative of the lesson learned, right?
Right. If you could have a cigar and play golf with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
That's a good one. Cigar and play golf. Does this mean they have to know how to play golf? Probably not.
Just be someone you want to play golf with and smoke a cigar with. They could be dead or alive.
You know, this is going to be cliche, right? But and it can happen tomorrow if I really wanted it to. And I've always had it in the back of my head that I wanted to happen. Having a cigar and playing golf with my dad, right?
Yeah.
It's something I've never done before. Something I've always wanted to do, but it's one of those things that you're so busy and caught up that you never make the time to do or be intentional.
Yeah.
Put that intentionality into it. It could be a miserable time. He doesn't play golf. He doesn't. I'm not sure if he doesn't like golf really, but
Yeah.
those are two things that I'm extremely passionate about. Just, hey, go and have fun. Not very good, right? But doing that with somebody who I love and care for and spend time with. I mean, don't smoke cigars with my son. Play golf all the time with my son. But to your point, it's a little cliche, but I mean, it's true. Something I can do tomorrow and probably should. But yeah,
Take that opportunity while you have it, brother.
Going out on the golf course with old pops.
Are there any favorite books that have really impacted your life? I know we both mentioned Napoleon Hill, so is there any books or certain authors that have really been impactful for you?
Yeah, there's so many out there, right? But there's, again, we talked about Napoleon Hill. That is something that is just brings out not just things that are good to know, but things you can put into practice. So these books that we tend to read, either for stories or for lessons or anything like that, is all great and dandy. But unless I can actually put things into practice and then go back and say, hey, I learned this, I put it into practice, it didn't work or it did work, as long as you're not just reading about it, but putting practicality. I'll go back to Napoleon Hill, right? I mean, that's a fantastic, phenomenal author that you can learn a lot from. But there's a lot of these other motivational speakers, and whenever I was getting into or doing the whole real estate deal, Gary Vaynerchuk was another one.
Yeah.
I would follow that guy, and lots of lessons learned there that would put practice into actually doing what he's teaching, right?
Yeah.
or other authors, but so many out there. I mean, I'll just go with Napoleon Hill. But as long as I personally can take what I'm reading and actually putting it into practice, that is what I recommend doing.
That's the same kind of stuff I read, so I'm with you on that.
Right?
My wife hates that answer. She's always telling me I need to read for fun, but
No, I can't read for fun.
It's hard. I mean, every now and then I can, but not a lot. All right, now's the fun part of this show as we wrap this up, because I want to be super respectful of your time and everything, but I do appreciate you coming out and doing this with us, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Been
getting to do this with you. So if you got to leave your children with one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
So if there was one thing I can leave them with, it would be to never give up. Always go after your goals, no matter what they are, and be the best person you can be based on, what they've learned from not just me, but from other individuals as well. Right? I'm not perfect, right? None of us here are perfect, but one thing that we all know is that our children are going to make their own decisions, make their own choices. At the end of the day, once the flock leaves, right? All we can do is influence them in the way they think, and the way they make certain decisions, and the way that they, their mentality, going back to the way they think. So continue to grow and learn, right, in life, and yeah, it's being the best person they can be, but then also try to make a difference in others as well.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Now's the fun part. Since the show's called Common Sense, we like to call this segment Give Us Your 2 Cents. So this can be something that you had hoped I would ask you, or something you didn't get to go deep enough on that you'd like to go a little deeper on, or it could just be your 2 cents that you'd like to share with everybody. It's totally up to you.
Yeah, I love it. Common sense. It's funny is that not everybody has it, right? But when you see it, when you hear it, it's appreciated. At least I do. Anyway, one of the things that I would say is common sense is just to enjoy life, man. Right? Like whatever you do, just fucking enjoy it, and make the best out of every situation. We talked a little bit about that, but for me, I think that's common sense, but it's not so common in where we're at today, right? We're too busy worrying about different things that's going on that's out of our control. So focus on what you can control and make the best of it, and enjoy and love life and love others, and be intentional with what you do and who you do life with.
Is that something that's kind of come to you over the years, or is that something your parents instilled in you, that mentality and that mindset?
It's something that I think my wife and I have focused on through the majority of our marriage, right? And that kind of just bled into every other aspect of our lives, and we try to instill that into our children too.
Right on, man.
Right.
That's super cool. Well, Rene, dude, thank you so much, man. Really enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed this show as much as I did, and I hope you'll join us again next week. Next week, we will be back on our regular slotted time on Thursday. I have a good friend of mine, Connor, coming to sit down with us. Connor's in the multifamily industry. He's on the construction side of things like I am, and we'll have another great show lined up for you guys. So until then, be safe out there. Peace.
Thanks, y'all.